So got a handful of questions here. Want to dig into some of the ideas and thoughts, get your insights. We've got, again, some specific questions around the area from the platform side, especially on the unified side that we'll jump into. But before we do that, if you don't mind, let's kick it off. Introduce yourself, the company, your value proposition. Give people sort of that quick elevator pitch, if you would.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you, Lee, and hopefully everyone can hear.
Yeah, you're good.
So my name's Kevin Baldwin from Wavestore. Getting away from the team over there as well, which is fantastic. So Wavestore builds unified security platforms. We look to combine access, video, events, and automation together. And this is so organizations can move away from simply monitoring their environments, but to understanding what's happening and acting upon it.
All right. So I understand it from a sort of a technical standpoint of what you did, or sort of how the process works, but is that transition that you're talking about, is this a technology problem, an organizational problem, or a narrative problem? How do you view it?
Yeah, well, the honest answer, Lee, is it's a mixture of all three. From a technology perspective, ideally you need to be in a world where you can unify and bring together your data. You want to have open platform hardware to do so, and you just need to be able to get that configured in an open way that's accessible. From a people problem, you've got to think about the people in the room. So traditionally security's been built in silos. So it's security guys that look at the security data. When we talk about unification and bringing value to teams, we need to be talking to other stakeholders. So whether that's operational, marketing, HR, there's security data can have other purposes. And then by way of a narrative perspective, security people need to be aware and of the view that they are not just there to provide security data, they are providing data that impacts real decisions in that business, in that organization.
All right. So to build on that, I mean, we just had a panel right before this that was talking about sort of the current state, if you would, of where open is. And in some respects, it sounds like you're talking about, so that panel, just to summarize for those that weren't here, hearing it, that conversation was sort of like the recognition that our systems need to be more interoperable, need to be more open, not a conversation of that how they are open and how they are interoperable. So as you look at somebody who's clearly at a point where those systems need to be that way, right? In order for the functionality to deliver that, how do you see the market currently right now? How much of what you're talking about is sort of future tense, if you would? Compared to reality of where things are today? And then if you would talk to me about what is the gap that's missing, or the biggest gap that's missing, to have the realization where what you're talking about is inevitably what that group was hoping it would be.
Yeah. So it's a really good question, Lee. And my take on this is that the industry's at a pivot point. So we have a group that are perhaps still more product and hardware led, which is cool. That's worked for them over time. It's protected their business models. But then there's also a group in the industry that are realizing that user experience really matters, and that openness is key. And I think that, to answer your question about who's going to win, who's going to go from this, it's those businesses, so whether it's integrators, end users, and, to be honest, software companies, it's those that recognize that security is actually a platform, but not just a product. So basically, the data that we can capture through all of our devices is something that can enable other business outcomes. There's a lot more value to be brought to the table if you think about it as a platform rather than a specific siloed product.
I love it. Okay. So talk to me about some of the immediate sort of benefits, the value proposition that are, when people see it, they're like, yeah, that now. And then can you then juxtapose that with sort of future set? Because I got to believe when I think about the system itself, it does bridge between iterative of where the current systems are at now, right? Solving a problem today. But I also can start to see where, and you talk about it, where it's it's proactive versus reactive, right? Because
Yeah.
once you get the data,
Yeah.
the ability to, you don't have to think real far to be like, oh, if I look at what's happening with agentic AI, and I don't have to have 75 people sitting behind a computer screen staring for alerts. Like those are some of the future set that are
Yeah.
current. I don't know, but so what are some of the value props right now that are just like, yeah, totally get it, and then what's the future look like?
Okay, that's cool. Great question. And I think something I want to take this back to was a panel I was involved in yesterday. And a phrase was used in that called muscle memory. And with muscle memory, we've got to remember we are, there's a narrative component to this. So what we have with Wave Fusion from Wavestore is we are taking people on that journey from, I guess, the platforms or the products they're familiar with today, and over time, step by step, looking to unify them, bring them in convergence. Right now, as a value proposition, if you look at Wave Fusion, we've got a fully functioning, fully credible access control platform. That's building on the experience that our CEO Sam's taken from Phoenix. He's sold that business to Acre, and he's the first person to put his hand up and say, I've got unfinished business. I want to transform my previously great cloud-based access control platform, but bring video into it. Wavestore is traditionally, our value proposition was on the on-premise VMS. We've got 20 odd years of experience from our development team who have developed their own sort of innovations. LAS, large allocation storage system, it's a really sweet spot to enable video to be compressed, searched, scaled, and found instantly. So that was like a unique selling proposition of the VMS. What we're doing deliberately is working with our a select panel of customers. We've got the access control, cloud-based access control working fantastically today. Our video is on a phased delivery, so the video is coming into that platform. Today, right now, we're streaming, but in the future, when I talk about the unification of other aspects of the security industry, that's where events, the analytics, that will be coming in later in this year. So moving forwards, we'll see like a broadening of the of the unification in there.
So what I could one day believe, like on, for those that aren't here and listening to it, you've got, access control plus video, you could envision plus intrusion plus, is that
Yes.
sort of in line with what you're talking about?
Exactly that.
Okay, and then also, if you wouldn't mind, as I was looking at the signage that you had, if you'd finish this equation for me based on what you have, access control plus video plus automation, I guess, equals what?
Equals what the unified security platform of today looks like.
Okay.
But the unified security platform of tomorrow will bring in the other factors that you see in industry. So it will include AI, it will include intrusion, the other elements of security that you talk about. I think the ultimate vision that Wavestore has is, access and video is more or less a starting point. What we see as a unified security platform is just what it says on the tin. It would be a platform unified that I guess end users and integrators can use as they need. It would be, pick on the. I use the word feature loosely. We want these things to be in at the core. Then it's not integrated. It's built in on the one system, but you can choose the widgets. You can choose the elements that you want to use through the platform. So it's basically having one screen, less friction when it comes to using.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about, because there's an entire industry around building management, right?
Yeah.
Because as you talk about, so do you see this as a subset of sort of a touch point for those systems because you're unifying from the security sort of set? I think one of the failures of building management is that they underappreciate the complexity that this industry brings, right? They think, oh, I'll just plug into an access control system, I got it figured out. Yeah. And then they realize it's like, oh, there's 4,000 access control systems, and then they travel around and go do that. But I can imagine, is it also, are you taking data from all of those and making it available for other people to go do that versus your own interface?
Yeah, definitely. So just to lift the hood on how Wave Fusion's being pulled together, it's built in Rust and Flutter, which are fantastic languages for developers to have build structured data.
I always love the names they come out with.
Yeah.
These
It's
Rust
absolutely
and
fantastic.
Flutter.
Yeah, so and with it being based on Amazon Cloud as well, there's like a proven sort of format. So where Wave Fusion is heading, I mean, you've heard of APIs, right? Everyone's heard of APIs, open API, people talk about it. There's basically two choices that you can make on API. You can talk about a REST API, or you can talk about, there's another API style called GraphQL.
Yep.
GraphQL is probably the lesser known of these, but it's also the one that has the most structured data. It's one endpoint, so simple to configure and connect to your systems to, but the data is very structured and offers something called introspection. So what that means is, over time, when you want to when you want to unify AI into the platform as well, it can self-seek, self-learn, and learn from its own data set. And that's not just us doing that. GraphQL, for somebody buying into Wave Fusion, that's just something that they have. So if a user turns around and says, well, actually, I'm not too keen on the UI, I want to ensure it works with this badging system or it works here, they have the access points to do that themselves as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to me because I don't know. I always resort. Maybe it's my marketing background. I always resort to the naming conventions of how we label things on that end. And in a lot of ways, of what you're explaining is, if we were not in the security industry, it's an enterprise software tool.
Yeah.
Right. Like we want to make it sound different because it's iterative off of what exists today, but it's an enterprise software tool. Is that
Yeah. I mean, that is a very fair way of thinking about it. I mean, one of the things when we were thinking of the UI is, in life and in business, people are used to working with cloud-based products. They're used to things looking and behaving a certain way. I guess the common thing that everybody seems to use in business, the CRM, there's like a consistency between them, and a compatibility and an option to migrate. Those are principles that should not be lost on security as well. For our locked-in platforms, why does it feel so complicated and complex to make use of them? So the user experience, making it feel more like the sort of thing that you would experience in everyday life, opens up the usability and the pool of people that can potentially use this.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it's. You would believe that there's going to be delivered a different level of intelligence of how we manage, and with the outcome being not only being able to deliver better security, but then also being able to deliver better value to like operational efficiencies, revenue generation, whatever it might be, for whatever the product's being applied to. It also, I feel like we're starting to move into just a very different category, because I have to believe also, tell me if this is true and done, but as I start to just think about it, we're starting to see tools that are, if I'm an integrator, that if I'm reselling it to the customer, these tools can also help me manage my business better for them, versus being just a reseller of stuff to a customer. And I wonder what that means to the economics of systems like these that are very different, because it's not common in our industry that the product that I represent is also a product that I use in my day-to-day. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a fair observation, Lee. And, if just taking a moment to reflect on that question, as an integrator, I think in the traditional security model, I would quote a project, or find a project, quote it, build it, install it, and leave. What these platforms enable you as an integrator to do is generate, predictable recurring revenue. You are not just the person, or you're not just the security expert. You're essentially an advisor to your customer. You can provide them with data that they can use to enhance their operational excellence or make improvements in the marketing. There's other data that you can provide, becoming a service provider, to move away from the bill it once model, but to a recurring model where you can support and be that customer's partner in the long term.
Yeah, and actually, as you're saying it, it's also interesting to think that once you have multi-tenant capability and I have data, there's also this ability to provide like managed services and insights that I historically wasn't able to be. It's like, why is this system in Leeds very different than this one in Manchester, operating at certain, it opens it up a bit more, that it not only can Well, actually, how you're talking about your system can deliver the safety and security utility
Yes.
that's being asked, but now I can what we call the plus.
Yeah.
I can also add all of these value, which again, I guess then changes the total cost of ownership equation and the return on investment
Yeah.
very differently than before.
Yeah. It's no longer a grudge purchase for the security team. It's something where you can measure the return on investment from multiple stakeholders across a business.
But I got to believe the lift of education around this is heavy.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to believe that's got to be very interesting. All right. So we'll put in where people can find out more information and go do that. I'm fascinated to see it. I love the pedigree of Sam. I've gotten to know Sam over the years. Did a wonderful job with Phoenix. It's not easy to do what he did on that end. So I'm interested to see exactly what happens with this product. And lightning strikes more than once, right?
Well, that's what we hope,
Yeah.
and that's what we're bought into.
Yeah. As my grandmother used to say, from my lips to God's ears. Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate you participating in all of this, for being here, for seeing what we're trying to do,
Yeah, that's cool.
and working with it, but then also the way that you all and your team have showed up. I recognize it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, and it's been a pleasure to talk.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.